Have you ever put an exciting new listing on the market only to receive an offer in 1 or 2 days and your seller to say, no thank you, let's wait for the next offer, or we're gonna hold out for a higher price? If so, stick around. We're gonna talk about a few quick tips on how to best handle these situations. Hello, welcome back to Rev Real Estate School. My name is Michael Montgomery. So if you've received that offer when it first comes onto the market and you're starting to deal with it and the seller's saying no, how do we handle that? The first thing to understand is don't blame the seller. This is especially important if you're in a market that is slowing or a slow market where you're starting to feel prices come down. Because the seller doesn't fully understand the market. You do. You're the real estate professional. So it's your job to help communicate to them what is going on. And in doing so, you can help them understand the importance of working with the offer that you have in hand. How is this done? It's best done at the time of listing the property. So if you can have this conversation beforehand and let them know that, look, sometimes the offers that we get pretty quickly are of this pool of buyers that are out there looking right now. And if we wait for a longer period of time, what we're hoping for are new buyers that are going to enter the market, or we're going to have to come down on price until we hit a realm that makes sense for the buyers that are out there. When sellers understand this before you come on the market, it's a lot easier to bring it back up when you have an offer in hand. Moving along, let's say that you now have that offer. You've educated them beforehand, or maybe you haven't educated them beforehand. Either way, it's okay. Let's start dealing with the situation that we have. First off, I always like to lead and let the seller know that I'm on your side. What my goal is to get you the highest price and on the best terms. The seller needs to understand that you're out there to try and help them, and you are. At the end of the day, if they don't want to take the offer because it's not right for them, then that's their decision, and we have to respect that. But we also want them to understand that, look, if they're not going to see another number that's this high, then it's our job to help communicate that in the right way. So the first approach I use is what I call the risk tolerance approach. What I let them know is when you have an offer in hand, usually, the ones that will let it go are those that have very high risk tolerance. Those that are willing to work with it typically have that middle of the ground risk tolerance, and those that just take it have the lowest risk tolerance. So what I've done here is I've indirectly told them that if they just let this go, then they better have a high level of risk tolerance. When dealing with a property that's $500,000 or so, oftentimes people aren't as risk tolerant as they would like to think. So I'm letting them know, look, if you're willing to let this one go, that's fine, but then we're risking the fact that we may not get another one or another one that is this high or with this great of terms. I'm not telling them that you better be risky if you're willing to let this one go. I'm not telling them anything. I'm simply letting them know that in most cases, what I've seen are people that have higher levels of risk tolerance. They'll let this one go because they're willing to take on the risk that another one will come in or another buyer will enter the market that's willing to pay them a higher price or better terms. So that's the risk tolerance approach. Again, I'm not telling them they better be risky. What I'm simply saying is risk tolerant people are usually the ones that are willing to let this one go. Those that are middle of the ground will work with it, and those that are very, very risk adverse will just take it. So what do people normally want to be? They want to be middle of the ground. They don't want to be the ones that just let it go, and they don't want to be the ones that just take it. Next, you've started to work on it. You've got the buyer up to their best price. You got your seller down to their best price, and you're at your best and finals. And there's still a gap. This happens very frequently in real estate. Now, if you're newer on the market and you think that, look, this number that we're at, that the buyer is at, and they're at a number that they're paying probably over market value in your professional opinion. So because of the fact that you're so new on the market, or even if you're not new on the market, even if you're just on the market and you think a buyer is paying a number that is either a premium or on the higher end of that market value, then how do you go about letting the seller know without letting them know, without actually coming right out and telling them, look, your place isn't worth what you think it is? Because we know that that won't get too far. So what I do here is I use the reverse psychology approach. How this works is I'm taking the pressure off the number and putting it on something else, which then in turn puts the pressure back on the number. Let me explain. So when you are at these highest numbers and you think that the buyer is at their highest point and you think that that's on the higher end of market value, how do you communicate this? I simply let the seller know, look, we're newer on the market, or we've been on the market for even, let's say, a few weeks, a few months. Sometimes it's not always about getting the highest price. I let the seller know this might be the highest number that we see. Okay, it might be the highest number that we see, but sometimes it's not always about the highest number. Sometimes it's about getting the offer at the right time. What I've done is I've taken the pressure off the number and onto the time frame. But as we know in real estate, typically the number is the most important thing. So in saying this to them, what I've actually said is just understand that by letting this go, you might get better timing. However, you might get a lower number. So again, to repeat it, I'm saying, look, we may not see a number that is this high again. This is in the higher end of market value. However, sometimes it's not always about getting the highest number. Sometimes it's about having the offer at the right time. And it's true, sometimes it is. Sometimes for a seller, they'll take a lower number and they'll still be happy, but they've given it a full shot. So it's been on the market for a longer period of time. All you want to do, coming back to the first point, is let them know that you're on their team, and what you want to do is get them the highest number on the best terms. And if you believe this offer to be the highest number on the best terms, then you have to communicate that to them. So you're taking the pressure off of the number and putting it on potentially the time frame, but thereby you're bringing it back to the number because they want the highest number. So those are two great approaches. Number one is the risk tolerance approach, and number two is the reverse psychology approach. Now in the description below, we're gonna link up an article to our favorite books for real estate agents in the order that you should read them. And these concepts come out of the people section of our books, specifically Crucial Conversations and Never Split the Difference. These books are about negotiation, but also dealing in high stakes situations when you're dealing with your own client. So head down in the description, check out those books. Let me know in the comments below, what are your best tips for dealing with sellers? Thank you very much for watching this video. We'll see you in the next lesson.